Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your podcast host for today's episode. And today on the show, we have Jeremy Kritt, founder and CEO of Kritt Real Estate. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices he's learned, and maybe some challenges that he's faced to give you that real look at what it's like to run and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications of when we drop episodes like this. Hey, Jeremy, thanks for being on the show today. It's great to meet you.
Hey, good to meet you too. Glad to be here.
Of course. Well, let's dive right in. I'd love
Okay.
to hear about you. Share a bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Jeremy Kritt. I'm the owner, founder, broker of Kritt Real Estate. We are a boutique real estate firm here in Austin, Texas. We help people buy, sell, and invest in real estate here in the greater Austin area. We also have branched out also into San Antonio, so we're actually working in two major market centers in Texas. Um, basically, I don't know how far you want me to go in or how deep you want to go in, but that's basically, you know, who I am and the business I'm involved in.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, I'm excited to dive in deeper into that. And let's start off with how did you get into not only into real estate? Well, maybe we start there. Or did you jump right into business right away? Or how did you kind of get into real estate?
So my journey into real estate is actually kind of interesting. I've had kind of a little bit of an unconventional life. Before I started real estate in 2017 as a licensed real estate agent in Texas, but actually before that, I was obviously a university student. I got a degree in philosophy. I often joke that's why I sell real estate. So I got a degree in philosophy at St. Louis University. I'm originally from California, though, but I went to St. Louis University to study philosophy. At that time, I was studying to be a Catholic priest, so something totally different from what I'm doing now. Did some graduate school in theology, decided I wanted to do something a little bit different with my life. And I had a crazy idea to go overseas to teach English as a foreign language. And so basically, from I would say 2024 until 2017, I was basically an English language teacher overseas. I taught in five different countries. Oh, sorry, five different. Let me think about this here for a second. I taught in Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi. So four countries, pardon me. So I taught 5 years in South Korea. Taught some young learners in the beginning, and then I taught at two universities in Korea. Then I taught at Beijing Normal University in Beijing, China. And then I taught at a men's college in Saudi Arabia, and then I was at the flagship university of the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi. So I was a teacher for 13 years, and I met my wife in Korea. My wife is Korean, and we got two children, and life started just I started as a young single guy enjoying my life and traveling around, and then as life developed and evolved and, my family started growing, I was basically like, I need to do something a little bit different. It's been fun traveling the world because obviously, living and working in these places, I did a lot of trips all over the world beyond the places I was living in, and it was really amazing. But basically, I hit a ceiling, and so what I realized about myself, and I think this will be good for your podcast for people who are thinking about entrepreneurship, I discovered something about myself as I was teaching, and that is that I do not do well in environments where the level of effort and ingenuity and creativity I have doesn't translate into the kind of income that I think I should be earning for that kind of input that I'm putting into something. So that
Mm,
was something that created a lot of just personal dissatisfaction for me because I felt that, for all of my not that I'm the most talented person in the world, but for all of the talents I have, a lot of for all the energy I put into what I do, just for the effort that I put in, it didn't translate into higher levels of income that I felt that I could earn. And obviously, not income for income's sake, but to get the income to be able to do the things I want to do with my life. And so that's when I realized I really needed to make a change. And I was very invested in teaching. I had gone on to get a master's in teaching English as a foreign language. And then I was working on a doctorate in Durham University in England part-time. I was going back and forth from Abu Dhabi to England. But I decided, I really needed to make a change. And something interesting about my family is that my entire family is involved in real estate. So my uncle is a real estate broker, and he works with, mainly in California, but he works with a developer and acquiring land and things like that. And my mom became a real estate agent. My dad was a real estate agent and a lender when I was growing up. So I kind of grew up around real estate.
Hmm.
And as I was going through my life and teaching, I thought, well, if I'm going to come back to the United States after 13 years, I'm not going to be able to just get a job and, get paid, the kind of income that I really need to make in order to do the things I need to do. I said, well, the only way I'm going to be able to make my return back to America is to have my own business. I thought, I didn't practice real estate at that point when I was thinking about it, but I was surrounded enough by real estate growing up that I was like, I felt confident that this is something that I could do if I really wanted to do it. So I made the decision. I hope it's not too long for you, but
No,
I made the
great.
decision that while I was teaching at Zayed University in Abu Dhabi, which was a great experience, by the way, wonderful experience over there. They're great over there, over in Abu Dhabi. And basically, I thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to go back to the United States. I'm going to do real estate. I started studying for my real estate license exam while I was in Abu Dhabi. Interestingly, I will say this is actually something that might be helpful for your listeners, considering that it's a coaching company that's kind of sponsoring this podcast. One of the things I realized, and this may be because of my education background, but I knew that even though I was surrounded by real estate when I was a young kid growing up, I knew that I needed a coach or I needed some help in order to hit the ground running because I had a little bit of life savings, but I knew that when I came to the United States, I only had one shot. I only had one shot to really make it in real estate
Mhm.
because as you're going, it's a commission only business. So as soon as you hit the ground running, you're just depleting, you're depleting savings, you're depleting, what you've got there. So you've got to make income quickly. So I knew that I needed help. And so interestingly, I discovered a person on the internet. His name is Bob Leffler. He runs a coaching program called Fearless Agent. It absolutely changed my life. He's probably, I have, I have, I have spoken to other coaches in real estate, but really Bob is the coach that really taught me really the fundamentals of everything I know and everything I use in my business today. And I joined his coaching program 1 year before I actually became a real estate agent. Because I
Mhm.
just wanted to have a system and say, okay, this is the system, and I'm just going to implement this system. So that
Mhm.
was a very big part of my journey, and it's a big part of whatever success I've had. I owe a lot of success to that guidance that I received from Bob. And I'll have to show him this to let he knows that I've told him before. But so basically, long and short of it is in 2016. I was thinking about where I wanted to move to, and I knew I was going to do real estate. And I chose Austin, Texas. Really, it was kind of a fluke. My brother at the time was at Fort Hood as a captain in the Army, or I think he was a lieutenant at that time. And I was like, I'm thinking about moving back. I know I'm moving back to the States. I don't want to go back to California. I haven't really found a place. He's like, Jeremy, you should think about Austin. It's growing very quickly and it's fun and all of that. And I just did a little Google search and I thought, well, if I could live in Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi, Austin's really going to be really easy because I speak the language. I'm an American citizen. So, I just kind of took it sight unseen.
Mhm.
And I made my decision. This was about a year before I moved to Austin. I made the decision um, to move to Austin. So I made that decision in 2016. I finally made the move in 2017
Mhm.
and landed here in the area and finished my licensing. And then I just really hit the ground running as a licensed real estate agent here in Austin. And like I said, a big part of my story was, I was really just following this system that I had learned from my coach, and I just implemented that system, and I had great success. I mean, it's something that's very interesting about real estate generally. In almost everybody has some contact with the real estate industry at some level. Like even if you're renting, you're talking to a leasing agent at an apartment, that's real estate. We're all real estate is very fundamental to life. And so a lot of people are very they have some contact with real estate, but they don't really understand the real estate business, and they
Hmm.
don't understand really what's involved with being a real estate agent. They think they know, but they don't know. And one of the things that people may not know is that the failure rate in real estate is extremely high. They say it's around 85%. It's probably like 90%. It has one of the highest failure rates out of all industries. And so I was very fortunate in that I luckily found someone that gave me some guidance on what to do. So I wasn't wasting a lot of time doing activities that were not productive and income generating activities. And
Yeah,
so I
definitely.
was able to come really right out of the gate and make a very good income my first year in real estate. And it just grew, it just really grew from there. So, I basically was just, selling, prospecting a lot, doing my follow-ups, doing all the things real estate agents, salespeople need to do, and my business was growing. And so around my fourth year in the business, I had decided, I had enough experience to get my broker's license. So there's two kinds of licenses. Almost anywhere in the United States, definitely in Texas, there's the real estate salesperson's license, which
Mm.
is what you think of as a real estate agent. Most people have the real estate salesperson's license, and that allows you to sell, to help people purchase and sell and lease real estate under the supervision of a broker. So typically you see a real estate agent in like a company like a Remax or a Compass or whatever. And so they're under a broker in a company. A broker is, I like to think of it as like the full license. It allows you to be independent. You don't need to be under the supervision of a broker. You can have
Hmm.
your own company. And so at that time, and it's kind of interesting because at that time, the reason why I got my broker's license originally, just the reason why the thought came to mind, I probably would have gotten it anyway, just because I'm a kind of like a high achiever, so I probably would have eventually gotten it. But at that time, it was because I wanted to change my structure for tax purposes. So I wanted to create an LLC and have commissions paid into my company, and that way I could have a little bit better tax structure. At that time, the state required you to have a broker's license to do that. Now they don't. So I may not have. Well, I don't know if I would be where I am today if the laws were different the way they are now. But anyway, there was just some circumstances that caused me to start thinking about getting my broker's license. But once I had the broker's license, I was like, you know what? I think I can do this on my own. Like I know real estate. I at that time, at that point, I was like, I felt, I'm a real estate expert. You know, I'm responsible. Um, I believe that I can create my own branding, not just be like an agent in another company, but I can just create my own brand, my own thing. Like Kritt Real Estate, you can see it here on my just the whole organization, the whole thing, and really just give it my spirit, my energy, my vibe. And so that's why I said, okay, I'm gonna just go out there and do it. I'm gonna create my own company, and go for it. And so that's what I did, and it's been very interesting. And it was very interesting when I formed Kritt Real Estate because I worked for a company with for about they had maybe 150 agents, and you feel very protected in a company because you got a broker, you got the company owner. If there's a problem, you can go to them and ask them questions, or maybe if there's something, maybe something happens and you're a little bit worried, you feel like, okay, they might come to bat for me and help me out. But I remember when I went out on my own, how scary it felt because it was like, oh my God, there's no one else to talk to. Like if there's a problem, it's just me and the government and my client. So it was a little bit. It did feel in the beginning very. It was a little bit scary in the beginning. I will admit, and it took time to like understand that. Wow, now I mean, I always had responsibility, but now the weight of the responsibility of all those real estate transactions fell really on me. So I was fully became full. I mean, you're always accountable, but your level of accountability legally and ethically and morally just it really just skyrockets when you go out on your own. I mean, it really is all on you.
Well,
So
if you don't mind if I interject,
say that again.
you don't mind if I interject. I have a
Yeah,
question.
no, I'm just talking. I can talk forever. So you just
Okay.
stop me whenever you want. I'm giving
I
you content here, so don't worry.
I'd like to learn about your team since kind of you talked about this, you've stepped into your entrepreneurship now. Have you built out a team of your
Yeah,
own?
so what I like so I sponsor agents in my company,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of what a real estate brokerage does is you know, a real estate brokerage is at the end of the day, it's a company that helps consumers fulfill their real estate goals. That's really what a real estate brokerage does. A real
Okay.
estate, people have real estate is a very interesting thing because it's something that we all interact with it. We all need it, especially residential real estate. We all need a place to live. We need a place to call home. It ties very closely into our personal financial life. And so the mission of at least the mission of my brokerage is really to fulfill the needs and the goals of our clients in fulfilling their real estate dreams and their real estate goals.
Okay.
Now the my model at Kritt Real Estate is every real estate agent is a business in the business, a business in my business, pardon me. So there's Kritt Real Estate, but Kritt Real Estate, really, as it relates to agents that I sponsor, is I want every real estate agent to develop their own real estate business. And Kritt Real Estate is just the platform to help them in carrying out their business in real estate. So I always try to, with my agents, I always try to help them develop their business so that, so for example, if they need to acquire clients to give them the encouragement and the tools, the advice, the guidance to acquire clients. And once they have clients and they're doing transactions, I'm that level of support that they need when there are problems that come up, when there's contract issues, when maybe there's a client relation thing that they're trying to work through. I'm kind of the umpire, Yoda, grandmaster behind the whole thing, helping them guide them along that process with their clients. So we always try to hire agents that are very independent, that are self-starters. That's always a challenge because I always take my experience of real estate as like the model
Mm-hmm.
because I was a successful solo agent, and so I know what it takes in order to develop a real estate business. One of the problems when people come into real estate is that they think that the company is just going to give them a bunch of leads and then all they got to do is just pick up the phone and they're going to just show a house and they're going to make $10,000. Well, that's not how it works, right? You have to be a self-starter. You have to engage in lead generation, however that is, whether it's online or making phone calls to people or knocking on doors or doing open houses. You have to take initiative. And so one of the things I try to do at Kritt Real Estate is really focus on the key things that will make an agent successful and to try to give that to the agents that join us. So my company is not so much a team that are like where we're just like we have one client and we're all working to help that one client. It's more like Kritt Real Estate is like this platform, this environment where agents can come in and develop their own business. And so that's what I'm always trying to do with any agent that wants to join Kritt Real Estate is usually they're people that maybe they're earning a little bit less money than they wish they were earning, but they want a little bit of help with that. And so when they join Crit Real Estate, really my job is to really empower them and to help them to be able to grow as an agent and to be able to develop their business. You know, you know,
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of yeah, this is wonderful. There's so
yeah.
much to unpack here. We're kind of coming up on time.
Okay, okay, yeah. I'm just, sorry. I'm just talking. I'm just going. So,
I'd like to get to, we have a question where we call it our rapid fire questions, that we do towards the end of the podcast, where I ask you four questions
sure.
and then just answer very top of mind. It's a very
Okay.
like quick rapid fire fun thing, and then we'll get to our how we can connect you with our audience, and then our final
hmm
question for the day.
Okay.
All right. Question number one is, what is the key to success for you?
The key to success. This is a very interesting question. Probably a bad question to ask someone who studies philosophy, but because I could go on and on about what this point. But I think ultimately, for me, success is trying to stay true to your purpose or what you how can I put this? I feel a drive in my life. I feel a pull in my life to do certain things. And I think that success is staying true to what I feel that calling is. To me, of course, I run a business, money is important, but money doesn't drive my life. We have to be profitable. And, obviously in business, we're always looking at how we can be more profitable, more streamlined. But at the end of the day, money is not the principal driver of how I view happiness or life. I think for me, it's having God at the center of my life, having focusing on my family, helping the development of my family, my children, helping them grow, and making a contribution to others. That's something I found recently in my life is going a little bit away from just it being about me, but what's the
Mhm.
contribution I can make to my family, to my children, to my wife, to my agents in my company, to my clients. And I have found that the more I can focus on things outside of myself, the happier I am, the less stressed out I am, the less anxious I am, and the more peace I feel. So I think for me, success is really at the end of the day, it's fulfilling my purpose and trying to lead with contribution,
Wonderful.
to the betterment of others.
I love that. That's a great one. Second question is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
I think, oh boy, I think that what's important for business owners to really understand and to grow in is that um, a business needs several things, and I like to think of it as three different models. So you need to have a lead generation model. So you need to have a system for how you acquire business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are just, randomly just finding clients and you don't have a systematic way, whether it's sales, marketing, or a combination of those two, you're never going to have a successful business. So you have to find lead generation sources and you have to create a system around that. And then the other thing is that you have to have an organizational model. In other words, you have to create a system for your business. So an accounting system, a procedure for how you deal with clients, whatever your sales process is, things like that. And the other thing is you have to have your books in order. You have to have a financial model. You have to make sure that you know your numbers and that you keep your numbers organized. And if you can't do it yourself, you should hire people to help you so that you have a very good financial picture of your business. I think a lot of people they start a business, but they maybe they're making a little bit of money, but they don't go into those higher levels of organization that would really help them grow their business by having, these kinds of systems and processes.
That's a really good one too. Thank you for sharing that. Number three is, what is a book that you've recently found inspiring to you?
It's not a recent book, but I always like to be an evangelist for this book. So I'm going to use this. There's a really good book I read when I was a teacher before I ever thought about going into business. It's called The Speed of Trust.
Mm.
And it talks about how trust is the most fundamental thing in business. And I have found that to be true. So when you can be a person of integrity, and the other person that you're dealing with, whether it's someone who works for you, works with you, or a client, if they know that you truly care and they can trust you, okay, and that trust is, they can trust you in real life, then you can do amazing things in business. The speed at which you can operate with people, the speed at which you can get deals done, it accelerates because I'm not worried about, right? The other person's not worried about you. They're not worried. Like they know they can trust you. They know that you're reliable. And I have found that with my agents, with people in my company, with my clients, the more that we can engender trust, the more we can be so one of the taglines of my company is that our agents are experts. Pardon me. I'm going blank here. I'm going blank here. Yeah, a partner you need, an expert you can trust. Okay, so we want to be a partner that people need. We want to be an expert that people can trust because if they can trust us, then we can help them. We can help them with whatever they're trying to do, and they're not second guessing us every step we're making. They know that what we're doing is in their best interest, and we can move faster for them. So the Speed of Trust talks all about that, and it's really a book that has guided a lot of the way I do business.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. The final question in our rapid fire is if you could wave a magic wand and overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Oh boy, what would it be? I think that the one thing that I need to do in my business is to increase leverage. So that's one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs is we want to do everything on our own. Usually, if you own your bus you own if you own your own business, you're probably really good at what you do, and it's very hard to trust other people to do tasks that are important, but they're not the core thing that makes the whole thing happen. And the more you can delegate to others, the faster you can grow. That's something that's very hard for me to do because I always say, well, only, I'm going to do it better. Yeah, I probably can do it better, but the fact is that it's important to delegate lower level or tasks that are not as critical to the main thing that makes the business operate. And so I would say it would be leverage.
Okay, wonderful. I think that's so true. That's such a great piece of advice. And before we get to our final question of the day, how can people connect with you and your business online?
Well, I would always love to connect with you online. You can find me very easily. If you just type in my name, Jeremy Kritt, a million things will pop up. So you'll be able to find a way to connect with me. But you can go to my company website, krittrealestate.com. You can find me on Facebook, Jeremy Kritt. Just type in Jeremy Kritt. You'll find me. You'll find my picture. You'll be able to identify me. And my email address is jeremy at krittrealestate.com. And I always invite anyone, if it's real estate or if you just want to talk about business or whatever, feel free to call me. Would love to connect with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jeremy, for sharing that information. For the final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
Wow. Okay. What's most inspiring to me today? That's interesting. Um, that's interesting. I'm trying to think what most inspires me today. Um, I think I don't know if this is an answer to your question, but for me, I'm always kind of coming back to my purpose. What's driving my activity? I always think to myself, I have just a limited time on this earth, and the older I get, the more precious time becomes. So I think what inspires me is when I see people living they're living their best life. They're really um, they're really focused on contribution and not just on themselves, but they've come into a state of their life where they're just really giving. They're giving their knowledge, they're giving their expertise, they're contributing. And so when I see that, that really inspires me because that's kind of where I want to be. I want to be at a place where I can be a positive force for good in the world and contribute something so that when I'm gone, long gone from this planet, hopefully whatever I've done, whatever seeds I've planted will do some good out there.
Aw, definitely. Well, that is inspiring to me. Jeremy, this has been a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.